Good morning, children. If you, rather, good evening, children. If you can hear me loudly and clearly, you know what to do. Type LNC so that we can quickly start. That's great. So, last class we started with the topic of breathing and exchange of gases. Yes, and now in that we did the general concept of breathing, respiration, external versus internal respiration. Then we have also done, the basic parts of the human respiratory system. And in the basic parts of human respiratory system, we have completed nose. Yes. In the nose, we studied that there is a pair of external nostrils, a pair of internal nostrils, and the passage between them was clearly divisible into vestibular region, respiratory region, and olfactory region. Then we also studied that the sensory lining or the inner lining of the nasal passage has a neurosensory epithelium or epithelium which helps in sense of smell, or olfactory epithelium called the Schneiderian membrane. The base of the Schneiderian membrane has Bowman's glands. Bowman's glands will secrete mucus, okay, and it will actually keep the Schneiderian membrane moist. Yeah. Then we also studied that the nasal part has uh, uh, you know three horizontal shelves of bone called nasal concha or nasal turbinate, that is superior, middle, and inferior nasal conchae. Superior and middle are extension of the ethmoid bone. Inferior is a separate bone altogether. So this is where we stopped last class. If you are as excited as I am to start with the topic, you know what to do. Type bio. Okay, so after nose, the next thing that we are doing is called the pharynx. Now, pharynx is what? It is a common passage. It's a common passage for digestive. It's a common passage for digestive and respiratory system. It's a common passage for digestive and respiratory system. Okay. Now, when we look at the pharynx, if I have to observe, so from the internal nares, okay, so this would be, say, the external nares, this would be the internal nares. From the internal nares, there would be a tube like this, okay. So this part would be continuation of the nose, okay. Similarly, when we just below the nose, there would be mouth here, yeah, and the mouth would continue into another opening, pharynx. This would be a continuation of the mouth like this, okay, and that would open into a part where there was trachea, and just in front of trachea there was larynx. So the pharynx is actually divisible into three parts. Yeah, the three parts are: this part, which is a continuation of the nose, is called nasopharynx. Yeah, the part which is a continuation of mouth and meets the nasopharynx coming from the mouth, so it's called oropharynx. And the part of the pharynx which goes to the trachea surrounded by larynx is also called laryngopharynx or laryngopharynx. So three parts of the pharynx: nasopharynx, oropharynx, and laryngopharynx. Yeah. So what do we know about nasopharynx, oropharynx, and laryngopharynx? Nasopharynx obviously is a continuation of the nose. Oropharynx is actually the common passage. Oropharynx is the common passage for air and food. Air and food. Laryngopharynx, okay, is a part which contains larynx followed by trachea in that only. Okay. Now, if I look at this region, I'm just zooming in. When we were doing cartilage, I taught you this also. Like the pharynx will open into two tubes. Okay. So there will be two tubes coming from the oropharynx. The anterior tube is the trachea, also called as windpipe. The posterior tube is esophagus. Okay. Now this opening of the esophagus, the opening of the pharynx which opens into the esophagus, can you tell me what it's called? The opening of the pharynx which opens into the esophagus, what is it called? No Aditi, esophagus का बात कर रहा हूँ, ट्रकिया का बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ. Very good खुशी. The opening of the pharynx which opens into the esophagus is gullet, and opening of the pharynx which opens into the trachea, opening of the pharynx which opens into the trachea is called glottis. So there is glottis and then there is gullet. Okay. Now around the glottis, yeah, here is going to be the voice box. Okay. And this voice box will have a glottis roughly inside, and from here there will be voice box का एक cartilage called epiglottis. Because this lies above the glottis, it is called epiglottis. So we can say that laryngopharynx opens through the glottis into the larynx. Okay. So laryngopharynx, so this part of the pharynx here, this part which opens into the trachea is called laryngopharynx. Okay, the opening between pharynx and larynx is called glottis. It is closed by epiglottis when we swallow food. Opening between pharynx and gut is called gullet. There is no covering to open that. One more thing that we studied was there is a tube called eustachian tube. Yes, eustachian tube is made up of elastic cartilage. Eustachian tube connects the middle ear. Eustachian tube connects the middle ear cavity to nasopharynx. This part, nasopharynx. Yeah, the eustachian tube connects the middle ear cavity to nasopharynx. What is the function of eustachian tube? Come on, in the chat box, tell me. What do you think is the function of the nasopharynx, of the eustachian tube? Then this eustachian tube is made up of elastic cartilage. Okay. Yes, it equalizes pressure on either sides of the eardrum. Eustachian tube equalizes air pressure or pressure on either sides of the eardrum. So pharynx is a common passage for digestive and respiratory system. Yeah. Uh, there are three parts of the pharynx: nasopharynx, oropharynx, and laryngopharynx. Out of that, nasopharynx is a continuation from the internal nares or internal nostrils. Then oropharynx is a common passage for air and food. Laryngopharynx is a part where glottis opens into the larynx region. Yes. Pharynx has two basic openings, glottis and gullet. Opening of the pharynx into the esophagus is called gullet. Opening of the pharynx into the trachea is called glottis. The glottis is actually surrounded by larynx. Larynx has a flap of elastic cartilage called epiglottis, which covers the glottis when we gulp down food. Also, nasopharynx shows an opening for eustachian tube. Eustachian tube is a tube made up of elastic cartilage. This tube connects middle ear cavity with nasopharynx. It helps in equalizing the pressure on either sides. Okay. All right. So that brings us the next thing, because the trachea will only be below the larynx. Yes. So the next thing obviously is larynx. Larynx is also called what box? Voice box, also called the sound box. Larynx is also called voice box or sound box. Now in humans, so larynx is basically what you know. Larynx is like a uh, cylindrical hollow structure. Okay. So in fact, it is made up of 9 cartilages. In larynx, there are 9 cartilages. Out of this, 3 cartilages are paired, then 3 are unpaired. Are you with me? How many are left? How many are left? Come on, if you are with me, how many are left? In humans, there are 9 cartilages, 3 are paired, 3 are unpaired. Except for Devangi and Shreya, everybody has written 3. It's absolutely incorrect. 0 will be left. Yes, Rashmi. Yes, Niranjan. Because if 3 are paired, that means this includes 6 cartilages. So there are a pair of cartilages. Yeah. So we have to know paired cartilages and unpaired cartilages. So unpaired cartilages include the first one, thyroid cartilage. Now remember, thyroid is another name for a gland. Thyroid का मतलब होता है shield. So thyroid cartilage is what? A shield shape cartilage. It's a single cartilage, unpaired. So it's single cartilage. Thyroid cartilage is also the largest laryngeal cartilage. It is the largest laryngeal cartilage. Okay. Now thyroid cartilage anteriorly it is complete. Yes, but dorsally or posteriorly it is incomplete. Matlab it does not form a ring, it is like a C shape. Okay. So a thyroid cartilage would be something like this. Yeah, it would be C shaped. Yes, or a shield shaped cartilage like this, and it has this edge in between. Okay, मतलब अगर इसको ये व्यू से देखेंगे तो ये ऐसा दिखेगा. It's not a flat structure. Okay, so this dotted line that I am drawing is actually a pointed part. Yeah, and this is how it looks like a shield. It goes behind, but this as it goes behind it is incomplete. So anteriorly it is complete, posteriorly or dorsally it is incomplete. Now the testosterone causes thyroid cartilage to enlarge. So this is important. In males, the thyroid cartilage is enlarged, and that is because of testosterone. Yes, yes. And this is called the thyroid prominence. Okay, that pointed part, right? So imagine it like this. Yeah, the thyroid cartilage is like this. So we can feel this part. मतलब ये जो dotted line हम बना रहे हैं वो ये part है. Okay, so this part is felt in males. It is enlarged and it is felt as the Adam's apple. It can be felt as Adam's apple. So they ask you, what is Adam's apple? Yeah, what is Adam's apple? It is nothing but the enlarged thyroid cartilage. Okay, Adam's apple is the enlarged thyroid cartilage. अब थायराइड कार्टिलेज के नीचे एक और है called cricoid cartilage. Now cricoid cartilage is a ring shaped cartilage. Cricoid cartilage is the shape of a ring, so it is a ring shaped cartilage and it is present just below thyroid cartilage. In fact इसके नीचे फिर ट्रकिया के रिंग्स शुरू हो जाते हैं. मतलब अगर मुझे बनाना है तो ये अपना होगा थायराइड कार्टिलेज ऐसे, ठीक है. ऐसा क्यों बना है? बिकॉज दिस इज दैट पॉइंटेड प्रोजेक्शन विच इज फेल्ड एज एडम्स एप्पल. और उसके जस्ट नीचे, ठीक है, ये कंप्लीट रिंग होता है ऐसा अंदर नीचे की तरफ जाते हुए ऐसे. तो इसको हम बोलेंगे क्रिकॉइड कार्टिलेज. और अब इसके नीचे क्रिकॉइड कार्टिलेज के नीचे याद है ट्रकिया के सी शेप कार्टिलेजेस हैं वो चालू हो जाता है. सो क्रिकॉइड कार्टिलेज इज द कार्टिलेज जस्ट बिलो द लैरिंग्स का थायराइड कार्टिलेज एंड अबव द ट्रकिया का रिंग्स. या द थर्ड कार्टिलेज विच इज एक्चुअली प्रेजेंट बिहाइंड, जो ऐसे पीछे की तरफ से निकलता है, ठीक है, और वो आगे की तरफ ऐसे पॉइंटेड होता है, ठीक है, सी शेप्ड होता है ऐसे. ये पीछे की तरफ है, करेक्ट, और आगे की तरफ से ऐसा ये फोल्ड होता है. दिस इज कॉल्ड एपिग्लॉटिस एंड वी ऑलरेडी नो व्हाट एपिग्लॉटिस इज. व्हाट इज एपिग्लॉटिस? Epiglottis is a cartilage which covers, yes, covers the glottis during. So epiglottis is actually a cartilage of the larynx, covers the glottis during swallowing. Now the paired cartilages which are there, they are generally observed posteriorly. ओके तो जितने भी पेड कार्टिलेजेस हैं वो पोस्टीरियरली ज़्यादा दिखते हैं. ओके, फॉर एग्जाम्पल वी हैव, in fact there are three cartilages. One is called arytenoid cartilage, और इसको लिख देते हैं arytenoid cartilages. क्यों? क्योंकि दो होते हैं. arytenoid मतलब like a triangular bag, or we can say arytenoid cartilage is pyramidal in shape. So arytenoid cartilage is pyramidal in shape and they are present posteriorly, so they form the posterior wall of the larynx. Arytenoid, pyramidal in shape. Corniculate का मतलब horn shaped और pointed. Horn कैसा होता है? वैसा. Corniculate cartilages which are again paired. This was discovered by a gentleman called Santorini. So corniculate cartilages are also called cartilage of Santorini. Okay. Okay. They are conical shape. They are conical shape cartilages, and they are present. They are conical or horn-like, and they are present on the top of arytenoid cartilage. So ये सब पीछे की तरफ होते हैं. The last is called cuneiform cartilage. Cuneiform means boat. Cuneiform is also a name of a bone in the body. So cuneiform cartilage are bone shaped cartilage, okay, or club shaped cartilage, not bone shaped, club shaped or boat shaped cartilage. They are club shaped cartilage. ओके, तो पीछे की तरफ पोस्टीरियरली अगर मैं देखूं तो एरेटिनॉइड कार्टिलेज होते हैं, उसके ऊपर छोटे से कॉर्निकुलेट कार्टिलेज होते हैं और उसके ऊपर क्यूनिफॉर्म होता है। तो मेजर पार्ट एरेटिनॉइड से बनता है, फिर उसके ऊपर कॉर्निकुलेट होता है, उसके ऊपर क्यूनिफॉर्म होता है। करेक्ट? So club shape or yeah. So this is all about the 9 cartilages which are there. Now you have to remember which of these are paired and which is not paired. But you tend to forget them easily. Not your mistake also. There are so many things to remember in this bloody world and so little brain that you have got that you need. What do you need? Brain tag. Absolutely correct. Now the brain tag for unpaired cartilage is CET, simple. Unpaired CET, okay. Some people remember it as etc. etc. I remember it as CET. Yes, C for cricoid, E for epiglottis, T for thyroid. Cricoid, epiglottis, ठीक है। जो दूसरा पैड वाला ब्रेन टैग है, वो ब्रेन टैग मुझे सबवे में गया, सब में मिला। मैं सबवे में अपना सैंडविच बना रहा था, तो मैंने उसको बोला था कॉर्न डालने को, पर उसने डाला नहीं। तो मैंने उसको पूछा, अरे कॉर्न नहीं, अरे कॉर्न नहीं। तो सबवे वाला बोला, हाँ हाँ क्यों नहीं, अरे कॉर्न नहीं, क्यों नहीं, अरे कॉर्न नहीं, क्यों नहीं, अरे कॉर्न नहीं क्यों नहीं आर पेयर्ड। So it's a conversation between me and the subway fellow. I remember it as paired. अरे कॉर्न नहीं, क्यों नहीं? Okay, you find it stupid. I find it ultra stupid. But that's how we remember. That's how our brain is tuned to remember ultra stupid things better than normal things. Okay. All right. So CET is going to be our CET is going to be cricoid, thyroid, and epiglottis. In fact, CET, the three CETs are important. Cricoid, epiglottis, and thyroid are important because these are the ones which are commonly asked. The other three are not important, but sometimes they ask you this to identify which of them, like find the odd one out about the cartilages of larynx. Okay. So CET, अरे कौन नहीं क्यों नहीं, okay. So this is larynx cartilage, but larynx apart from cartilage also has vocal cords, okay. So it has 9 cartilages and 2 pairs of vocal cords. Now this is very important because so if you analyze, larynx is like a tabla or a dhol like this, okay. Now what's the function of a tabla? Why is the shape of a tabla made like this? Just to give you an idea, so tabla is a closed ye, okay. So what we do is when we bang this, okay, this vibrates, and within this the air actually resonates in this closed space. So such type of instruments are called percussion instruments, ठीक है। percussion मतलब जिसमें एक डायफ्राम रहता है जिसको आप मारते हो तो वो वाइब्रेट होता है, और वो वाइब्रेशंस, वो एयर का वाइब्रेशंस उसके अंदर रेजोनेट होता है तो हमको साउंड आती है, राइट? So you will find all that, all percussion instruments like this, hollow cylinders. अभी तबला ले लो, या ढोलक ले लो, या बैंजो ले लो, राइट? या ड्रम्स, जो नॉर्मल वेस्टर्न इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स हैं, तो इसमें भी ये जो चीज़ है लैरिंग्स में, ये जो चीज़ है ये कार्टिलेज से बनी हुई है, द हॉलो स्ट्रक्चर, राइट? सो एंटीरियरली ये सीईटी से बनी हुई है, ओके? मतलब थायराइड सबसे बड़ा, उसके नीचे क्रिकॉइड, ठीक है, एपिग्लॉटिस ऐसा पीछे की तरफ, और पीछे ये छह होते हैं, एरिटेनॉइड, कॉर्निक्यूलेट एंड क्यूनिफॉर्म। तो ओवरऑल कैसे होता है, ये एक ओपन स्पेस की तरह हो जाता है, थोड़ा क्लोज स्पेस की तरह हो जाता है, राइट? अब इसके अंदर क्या चाहिए हमको, एक मेम्ब्रेन। तो वो जो ग्लॉटिस होता है वो रफली ऐसा दिखता है, ठीक है? अंदर की तरफ ग्लॉटिस ऐसा है, उसके आसपास मेम्ब्रेन होते हैं। तो नॉर्मली हम तबला अपने हाथों से बजाते हैं, नेचर ने बोला ये वाला जो अपना गले का तबला है वो हवा से बनाते हैं। So when you push air into it, you breathe in a particular manner. For talking, you want your cartilage to be moving in a particular manner. When this membrane moves, you produce sound. Did we understand that? So अंदर vocal cords होते हैं, right? So I'm about to change the slide in about 30 seconds. In case you've not finished writing, quickly take a screenshot. Okay? All right. Then, now how do I see this? From the mouth, I pass an instrument inside, okay? That instrument has a light matlab it's a small light, and it has a small mirror like this so that I can see through it. So from here I can see. That instrument, kids, is called a laryngoscope. It's called a laryngoscope. Okay, so what is a laryngoscope? Laryngoscope is an instrument used to Laryngoscope is an instrument used to visualize the larynx. So laryngoscope is an instrument used to visualize the larynx or see the larynx and the vocal cords. So I can see the vocal cords without damaging them by a laryngoscope. So when I look at it through the laryngoscope, this is how the laryngoscope will show me a circular area, because larynx is like a cylinder, right? तो मैं ऊपर से देखूंगा तो circular दिखेगा, and उसके पास ऐसे triangular ये membranes होते हैं, ठीक है? एक membrane जो ऊपर की तरफ होता है और एक membrane उसके नीचे है, ठीक है? मतलब ये ऐसा है, राइट? एक और है जो इसके नीचे है पर वो दिखेगा नहीं, राइट? ये उसके नीचे है, सिर्फ ये वाला पोर्शन दिखता है. So the pink one that I'm drawing is just drawn like this, but remember it is actually below. Yes, you understand this? And this is the opening between the vocal cords which connects the air in the trachea, and this is called the glottis. समझा? तो ग्लॉटिस इसके अंदर का ओपनिंग है जो हवा अंदर भेजता है, उसके आसपास वोकल कॉर्ड्स होते हैं, right? So how many pairs of vocal cords are there? Two pairs of vocal cords are there, okay? Now the first one is called the anterior pair, the one in green. It's called the anterior pair. Some people also call it the superior pair because laryngoscope में वो ऊपर से दिख रहा है. Okay, anterior pair is composed of membranes. It is composed of membranes. It just helps in protection. It is composed of membranes and they do not help in they do not help in production of sound phonation. They do not help in sound phonation. They provide moisture to the vocal cords. अब मॉइस्चर क्यों ज़रूरी है? अगर आप लंबे समय तक बात कर रहे हो तो आपका गला सूख जाता है ना? तो अगर आप कोई भी ऐसा प्रोफेशन देखोगे जिसमें बहुत ज़्यादा बात करना है तो टेबल पे हमेशा एक ग्लास या एक बॉटल ऑफ वाटर होगा, राइट? So anterior pair naturally provide this kind of moisture. Now because they are vocal cords क्योंकि ये दिखते हैं ऐसे, but they don't help in production of sound. The anterior pair of vocal cords are called false vocal cords. False vocal cords. The second one, which is below that, can be called inferior or posterior vocal cord. So posterior pair of vocal cords, okay, they are composed of posterior pair of vocal cords. They are composed of yellow fibrous connective tissue. मतलब it's elastic. Yeah, yellow is elastin fibers. So yellow fibrous elastic connective tissue. Okay. When air hits it, it can cause vibration and thus it helps in producing sound. So it produces sound. Because it produces sound, posterior pair of vocal cords are called true vocal cords. So इसके ऊपर भी क्वेश्चन पूछा गया है, what are true vocal cords and what are false vocal cords? Okay. Then the pitch of the sound, how sharp the sound is. Pitch of the sound is determined by the tension in the vocal cords. ठीक है? Pitch in the sound is determined by the tension in vocal cords. Important. मतलब greater is the greater the tension, greater is the pitch of the sound. Now tell me, an adult male and an adult female, who has a higher pitch of sound? Adult male और adult female, किसके पास higher pitch है sound का? Okay, so yeah, it's a divided house. Remember, children and adult females. Children and adult females have higher pitch of sound. Okay, have higher pitch, and that is why it is a shrilling sound. मतलब, that difference in the tonality of the voice is because of that. So higher pitch, biologically it helps them to yell a lot. Okay, yell a lot matlab, how does a baby communicate with you? A newborn baby or an infant communicates to you by crying, and वो crying can be heard from a long distance. So जितना high pitch sound होता है उतना वो long distance में सुनाई देगा, ठीक है? और वो बहुत sharp sound होता है, तो it is an attention seeking sound. Okay, so biologically what was the function of females when humans were evolving? The function of females was to take care of the young ones. Okay, now in humans, males were more strong and sturdy, more muscular, heavy bony structure, but they went out to gather food for the young ones. Okay, so every species has a division of labor. For example, in the lion community, yeah, lions, the male takes care of the babies and the lioness will go and hunt for food. Okay. Not that the lion cannot hunt for food. Lion can also hunt for food, but there is a division of labor. Lion will stay back and take care of his young ones. In human males were supposed to go and hunt for food, and females were supposed to take care of for young ones. So the female voice was high pitched, sharper, could go a little louder. Yes. So जितने हाई नोट वॉइसेस होते हैं, ठीक है, जैसे गाने होते हैं तो उसमें हम बोलते हैं ऊंचा गाते हैं, राइट? लाइक सुखविंदर सिंह, इफ यू सी ही टेक्स अ वेरी हाई पिच, वो बहुत हाई सुर में लगाते हैं, राइट? So so this is, anyways, this is all about the pitch of the sound. Some something related to medicine, so I keep on doing this. Like last time also I taught you some diseases. Let's study some diseases associated with the larynx. The simplest disease is called laryngitis. Whenever I add the word itis, what does it mean? What does laryngitis mean? Come on, write in the chat box. What does laryngitis mean? Absolutely. Laryngitis, itis का मतलब होता है inflammation. Absolutely correct. Everybody was correct. So laryngitis is inflammation of larynx. ठीक है? और इस इसके वजह से हमारा जो आवाज़ का टेक्सचर है वो कम हो जाता, या होर्स हो जाता है, उसको हम लोग होर्स वॉइस बोलते हैं. कभी कोई पिकनिक वगैरह में बस में जा रहे हैं या गाड़ी में जा रहे हैं, ट्रेन में जा रहे हैं, और अंताक्षरी खेल रहे हैं चिल्ला चिल्ला के, तो एक दो दिन के बाद गला बैठ जाता है. दैट्स बिकॉज ऑफ इन्फ्लेमेशन ऑफ लैरिंग्स. कभी कभी सोर थ्रोट हुआ है, कोई बैक्टीरिया है वो फैरिंग्स को अफेक्ट करता है, और अगर वो लैरिंग्स में चला गया तो गले में खराश होती है और आवाज़ भी बैठ जाती है. सो जब भी, नॉर्मली हम हिंदी में बोलते हैं आवाज़ बैठ गई है, जब भी किसी की आवाज़ बैठ जाती है इसका मतलब उसको इन्फ्लेमेशन ऑफ लैरिंग्स हुआ है. ऑल्सो जो सिंगर्स होते हैं वो बहुत ज़्यादा अपने साउंड को मॉड्यूलेट करते हैं. ओके, तो इसीलिए लैरिंग्स में छोटे छोटे नोड्यूल्स बन जाते हैं, जो कभी कभी वोकल कॉर्ड्स में नोड्यूल्स बन जाते हैं, ऐसे छोटे छोटे स्वेलिंग्स. ओके, और वो नोड्यूल्स आर कॉल्ड सिंगर्स नोड्यूल्स. ओके, they are generally found in the posterior pair of vocal cords. Posterior pair of VC मतलब vocal cords, and this occurs due to overstraining of the vocal cords. ठीक है, तो सिंगर्स में बहुत कॉमनली ये नोड्यूल्स दिखते हैं. तो सिंगर्स नोड्यूल्स एंड laryngitis. So this is all about the larynx. Larynx is made up of 9 cartilages and 4 vocal cords. The vocal cords can be visualized using an instrument called laryngoscope. This is how the diagram that I've drawn. Please draw this diagram. This is important. Yeah, this is called the anterior pair of vocal cords. Anterior vocal cords. This is called the posterior pair of vocal cords. Posterior vocal cords. ठीक है? So this is all about the larynx. Now larynx then continues. Yes, Kushi, what you said was is correct. All right. So then we move on to the next. Yes. So what have we actually done? We've completed with nose. After nose, we finished pharynx. After pharynx, we completed with larynx. ठीक है ना? अब larynx के बाद we'll take the trachea and the branches of the trachea. वो भी आपको मैंने in general last class पढ़ाया था. चलो, what do we know about the trachea now? Trachea is also known as the windpipe. Yes, it's a straight tube, not curved, and this straight tube is about 12 centimeters long. It's a straight tube which is 12 centimeters long. Important. Okay, where is it present? It is present in the thorax in the midline. So we say it is present in the mid thoracic cavity. Yeah, in the midline of the thoracic cavity. Yes, if you look at the trachea, it lies in front of the esophagus. Esophagus lies behind. It lies in front of the esophagus. ये important है. Trachea is anterior, esophagus is posterior. Then the trachea extends from the larynx. It extends from, begins from the larynx. ठीक है ना, larynx से शुरू होता है to the level of ये important है, to the level of fifth thoracic vertebra. I hope you remember the vertebrae. Yes, vertebrae are backbones, right? So अब फिफ्थ thoracic vertebra को imagine करो, उधर उधर से एक horizontal plane देखो. तो thoracic, the trachea will start from the larynx, end at the fifth thoracic vertebra. You know why do we say it ends at the fifth thoracic vertebra? Because it at the fifth thoracic vertebra it forms two branches, and these two branches are called bronchi. It forms two branches, and these two branches are called primary bronchi. It forms two branches called primary bronchi at the level of fifth thoracic vertebra. Now, inner lining of trachea, what is it made up of? Come on, ये भी किया था last class. What is the inner lining of trachea made up of? What is the inner lining of trachea made up of? Very good, Niranjan. What about the others? ये कभी नहीं भूल सकते हो आप. It has pseudo, unique है उसका, pseudo stratified ciliated columnar epithelium. Pseudo stratified ciliated columnar epithelium. ठीक है. Then throughout the ring, throughout the length of the cartilage, there are what? 16 to 20 C-shaped cartilages which are what? Hyaline. Remember? C-shaped hyaline cartilaginous rings. NCERT बोलता है C-shaped cartilaginous rings. I'm just adding a word hyaline. Yes, no visible fibers in the matrix. What is the function? Hyaline cartilage they prevent collapsing of trachea. They prevent collapsing of trachea. So they hold the shape of the trachea and prevent it from collapsing. Prevent collapsing of the trachea. Yes. Then what is present posteriorly? If this is the C-shaped cartilage, what is present posteriorly? What is present posteriorly is are muscles, and these muscles are called trachealis muscles. So posteriorly it is incomplete, right? So the muscles are called trachealis muscle. What's the function of the cilia in trachea? It will trap small dust particles and throw it upwards. Then this trachea will divide to form what? Trachea will divide to form primary bronchi. Primary bronchi will divide to form secondary bronchi. Secondary will form tertiary bronchi, right? So fifth thoracic vertebrae पे trachea will divide to form primary bronchi. Primary bronchi will divide to form secondary bronchi. Secondary bronchi will divide to form tertiary bronchi. Tertiary bronchi will further divide to form terminal bronchioles. It forms terminal bronchioles. Terminal bronchioles will further divide to form respiratory bronchioles. Yes, so that's the entire bronchial tree. How is it formed? Now the bronchi and the trachea and the bronchi are controlled by incomplete cartilaginous rings. So the trachea as well as the bronchi have incomplete cartilaginous rings. It's not only the trachea. Yeah. Also, I taught you this: the air present in the uh, bronchial tree is called anatomical dead space. Anatomical dead space is about 150 ml of air. Okay. So trachea is also known as windpipe. It's a straight tube about 12 centimeters long, present in the mid-thoracic cavity, present in front of the esophagus and extends from the larynx, the level of the fifth thoracic vertebra. At the fifth thoracic vertebra, it forms two branches: primary bronchi, um, inner lining of the trachea is made up of pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium. It is lined by 16 to 20 parts of C-shaped 16 to 20 C-shaped cartilages called hyaline cartilages. It divides to form primary bronchi, secondary bronchi, tertiary bronchi, terminal bronchi, respiratory bronchioles. Yes, respiratory bronchioles will further form alveolar duct, alveolar sac, and within that there will be alveoli. Right now, exchange of gases only take place from respiratory bronchiole downwards. So air from the nose to the terminal bronchiole. Okay, Aditya, this is for you. Air which is present from the nose into the terminal bronchiole, that is not exchanged. The gas is not exchanged from the air. Oxygen is not taken in and carbon dioxide is not given out. That is why that space is called dead space. हवा होने के बावजूद भी there is no exchange of gases. So that's called anatomical dead space. So at any given point in time, there is 150 ml of air in that dead space. Okay, so we move on. In the next category, we are going to talk about the alveoli, the most important aspect in human respiration. So, what are alveoli? To understand alveoli, respiratory bronchioles, respiratory bronchioles will branch into what? Will branch into alveolar ducts. Alveolar ducts will have what? Alveolar ducts will have alveolar sacs, and alveolar sacs will have individual spherical part called alveoli. Okay, all right. The total number of alveoli, the total number of alveoli in the human body, in both the lungs, in the lungs, yeah, both the lungs, is 300 to 350 million alveoli are present. So basically, it increases the surface area. So that brings me to surface area. The surface area, if I take all alveoli of the lungs and straighten it, so the surface area of all the alveoli of the lung is 70 to 100 meters square. Now, just to make you imagine what a 100-meter square area would look like, um, Can you tell me how many centimeters are there in a foot ruler? Foot ruler सबने use किया. How many centimeters in a foot ruler? How many centimeters? Type. Tell me how many centimeters in a foot ruler. Kushi, the number that you have given me is in inches. The bigger one is only called the foot ruler, Niranjan. Some people are asking me, is it the bigger one or the smaller one? A foot ruler means जिसका लेंथ 1 फुट का होता है. 1 फुट में 12 इंचेस होते हैं. Yes, the longer one is that 12 inches one. Yeah. So if you look at the markings which are present on them, it's around 30 inches, 30.5, but sorry, in the marking it is 30 centimeters. Yeah. 30 centimeters are marked on it. It's around 30 centimeters. So now imagine, so if I have to get 100 centimeters, so how many foot rulers? 1 foot ruler, a second foot ruler, a third foot ruler approximately, तो ये 90 हो जाएगा, and then 1/3 of a foot ruler. Yes, so can I say this is 3.3 feet? Now just imagine that 3 foot rulers and 1/3. ठीक है. Now ऐसे ही vertical distance समझ लो और ऐसे ही horizontal. ये लेंथ का एक स्क्वायर अगर आप कट करोगे तो वो होगा ये 1 मीटर स्क्वायर होगा, because this is 1 meter. Now if you take this and keep 10 such units, इतना बड़ा 10 डालोगे एक के बाद एक, तो वैसे ही आपको, या इमेजिन करो ये 1 मीटर स्क्वायर के 10 आपने बॉक्सेस लिए तो वो 10 मीटर स्क्वायर हो गया. That's the amount of surface area of alveoli which is kept in a small area in the lungs, indicating that it is highly folded. Okay. Now what is the alveoli made up of? Come on. What is the alveolus made up of? Alveolus has actually epithelium. Can you tell me? Alveolus just has epithelium. Very good, Kushi Devangi. Alveolus is just a layer of single layer, simple epithelium tha, right? Because it helps in diffusion of gases. याद है मैंने आपको बताया था diffusion of gases? It is made up of a single layer of epithelium. Alveoli is made up of a single layer of epithelium. What epithelium? Flat cells, so squamous epithelium. So I can say it is made up of simple squamous epithelium. Okay. Now there are many alveoli in the lungs. Yes. So all these alveoli, so if I look at the lungs are nothing but triangular organs which will have these bronchi. Yes, bronchi, bronchioles, and they will have alveoli. So there will be gap between them. That gap is by, again, elastic tissue. So we can say the gap between them, okay, or the space between them, space between alveoli. Yes, space between alveoli or bronchi, yes, is filled by elastic connective tissue, yellow fibrous connective tissue. So it's elastic connective tissue. Okay, so when I look at the alveoli, the alveoli resemble like this. Yes, so uh, a bag of a small bag made up of squamous epithelium like this. Now they help in exchange of gases. So squamous cells of alveoli, they deal with air. So they are called pneumocytes. Pneuma means air. Okay, pneumocytes. Pneumo is air, cyte means cell. Okay. Now within these alveoli, there are two types of pneumocytes. Type 1 pneumocytes or alveolar cells, type 1 pneumocytes, and the second one are called type 2 pneumocytes. Now, in the alveoli, there could be, you know, small dust particles which have not been trapped by the nose, not been trapped by the trachea. They can reach there. So they also have macrophages. Okay. Yes, macrophages of the lungs. They actually help in eating harmful substances. Macrophages. Okay. Now, type 1 pneumocytes are the ones which help in exchange of gases. Help in exchange of gases. So, the exchange of gases with blood, yeah. Then, type 2 pneumocytes are special cells which are called Clara cells. Clara cells. Okay. In fact, they also feature like macrophages, but type 2 pneumocytes, let me talk about the function here. Type 2 pneumocytes actually help in secreting, they secrete a surfactant. Okay. The name of that surfactant is dipalmitoyl lecithin. Dipalmitoyl lecithin. Now, what's a surfactant? Surfactant reduces surface tension of a fluid, and here it is going to be water. Okay. So say for example, so this is the alveolus. The alveolus has fluid in it. Now air has to enter this and come out, or oxygen has to be exchanged. Now what will happen is that the surface tension, which is nothing but the force exerted by molecules on the surface tension, force exerted by molecules on the surface are called surface tension. This will not allow easy exchange of gases. So surfactant reduces this surface tension, so the molecules of water के बीच का force कम हो जाता है and gases can pass through. Okay. So basically what does the surface surfactant do? Surfactant reduces or decreases surface tension, and not only that, the surfactant reduces surface tension, and they will always keep, because of surfactant, alveoli will always remain expanded, will always remain expanded. अब उसका क्या मतलब होता है? Now, if you look at any drop of water, because the surface molecules exert force, it will always, all of them will exert force on each other. The molecule of, rather a water body will always be in form of drops. It will try to form a drop. But अगर मैंने इसका surface tension छोड़ दी तो कम कर दिया तो वो ऐसा हो जाएगा. It will stay in a constant expanded state. So surfactant actually helps in expanded state. Kids, where have you studied the word lecithin? Lecithin कहाँ पढ़ा था? बताओ. Word lecithin कहाँ पढ़ा था? Very good. Biomolecules. Correct. This is a type of phospholipid. ठीक है, तो इसका नाम अभी डाइपाल्मेटॉइल लेसिथिन कैसा पड़ा? I'll come back to this again. If I look at lecithin, it is actually having glycerol molecule होता है, correct? 3 कार्बन, इसमें फॉस्फेट ग्रुप होता है, करेक्ट, और उसके बाद एक कॉम्प्लेक्स ग्रुप होता है, राइट, जिसको हम लोग बोलते हैं कोलिन. यस, वो जो एन फिर उसके साथ तीन थ्री CH3CH, एनसीईआरटी में उसका डायग्राम दिया हुआ है, राइट? दैट इज इट्स कॉल्ड फॉस्फोलिपिड। अब उसके यहाँ पे हमने क्या लिखा था यहाँ पे, ऐसा C डबल बॉन्ड O R1, मतलब इट इज वन एसिड, it could be any acid, and here it could be any acid. If both of them are palmitic acid, palmitic acid has how many carbon atoms, children? NCERT में दिया हुआ है, palmitic acid has how many carbon atoms? Correct. Yes. 16 carbon atoms, yes, is the correct answer. Rashmi, Devangi, Josna, Khushi, only 4 people have given this answer. Yeah, so this is called dipalmitoyl lecithin. Dipalmitoyl lecithin, ये है उसका मतलब. Okay. Now, coming back, these macrophages help in engulfing in case any microorganism goes in the lungs. Now, this entire thing, the alveoli are completely surrounded by blood capillaries. They are surrounded by blood capillaries for exchange of gases. Yes, and these blood capillaries are branches of pulmonary artery, matlab they carry deoxygenated blood, which are branches of pulmonary artery. Now, for exchange of gases, there are pores between the cells. Okay, so there are pores between the cells. There are pores in the wall of the alveoli. They help in exchange of gases easier. Pores in the wall of alveoli. Sorry. The pores in the wall of alveoli were discovered by a gentleman called Kohn. So they are called pores of Kohn. Kohn. Pores of Kohn. So just a quick recap. Alveoli are formed by branching of respiratory bronchioles, alveolar ducts. Each alveolar sac is made up of many alveoli. The number of alveoli in the lungs together is around 300 to 350 million alveoli, and the surface area is around 70 to 100 meters square. It's just made up of a single layer of epithelium, and the space between alveoli, or I can say the external surface of alveoli, is having yellow fibrous connective tissue. There are two basic types of cells in alveoli called pneumocyte, type 1 pneumocyte and type 2 pneumocyte. Type 1 pneumocyte helps in exchange of gases. Type 2 pneumocytes actually help in secreting a surfactant. The surfactant is called dipalmitoyl lecithin, matlab lecithin with both palmitic acid. It's a phospholipid which reduces the surface tension. Surface tension is nothing but the force of attraction between the surface molecules of any fluid. Here we are talking about water. Because they break the surface tension, alveoli will always remain expanded. There are pores in the walls of alveoli which are called pores of Kohn. All the alveoli is richly supplied with blood capillaries. They are formed by the union or branches of pulmonary arteries. Okay, so this is all about, uh, yeah. So the Clara cells, no, are actually the name given to macrophages, but types of type 2 pneumocytes can also engulf some micro. So any engulfing cell is called a Clara cell. Okay, any engulfing cells are called Clara cells. All right. Then we move on to the next part, and here we have completed the entire respiratory system. But here the respiratory system needs to be looked at in terms of an organ. Yes. So what was the organ? The organ was lung, right? So primary bronchi enters into an organ. The organ is called lung, and everything else, all the other branching, are called lungs. Yeah, the entire branching occurs in lungs. Okay, so what are lungs? So what are lungs? Lungs are a pair of respiratory organs or breathing organs. Pair pair of respiratory organs. That is what they are. Where are they located? Like we study anything. Where are they located? They are located in the thoracic cavity. Yes, the heart is located in the thoracic cavity in the center called mediastinum. So they are located in the thoracic cavity on either sides of the heart. Either sides of the heart. Now, thoracic cavity is an airtight chamber. This is important. So it is covered on all sides, completed on all sides. So is an airtight chamber. There is no air within the thoracic cavity. There is air within the lung, but there is no air within the thoracic cavity, no air outside the lung. Yes, हमने हार्ट में भी सेम किया हुआ था. It is protected by, so lungs are also, the lungs are also protected by what anteriorly? Come on, anteriorly, which is the bone which is present. What is it protected by posteriorly? And what is it protected by on the sides? Laterally. And what is it protected by inferiorly? Chalo. Anteriorly batao pehle. Inferiorly or from below? Very good, Devangi. So anteriorly it is by the breastbone. Anteriorly it is by the breastbone. The breastbone is called sternum. Posteriorly it is by the vertebral column. Posteriorly it is by the vertebral column. Laterally on the sides it is by the ribs, and inferiorly it is by the diaphragm. So this is how the thoracic cavity or the rib cage is. Yes. Now when I look at the external shape of the lungs, okay, if I look at the shape of the lungs, lungs are conical organs, just like the heart. Heart was also conical organ. इसके पास base होगा और इसके पास apex होगा, right? So base of the lung is present on the diaphragm. The base of the lung is on the diaphragm. Apex of the lung, on the other hand, is towards the neck. Okay, towards the neck. Now when I look at lung, what does it primarily contain? Now remember, primarily it contains the bronchial tree. ब्रोंकियल और ब्रैंकियल में फर्क है. ब्रोंकियल का मतलब होता है रेस्पिरेटरी सिस्टम से, ब्रैंकियल का मतलब होता है गिल्स. सो इट विल हैव ब्रोंकियल ट्री, एंड ब्रोंकियल ट्री के अलावा ब्रोंकियल ट्री इज इंटरकनेक्टेड बाय कनेक्टिव टिश्यू, राइट? सो स्पेस जो इंटर इनके बीच में होगा, दैट विल बी by connective tissue. Yeah, so that's the structure. So if structurally, if I see, the you, lungs are spongy structures because they will contain air within the alveoli. They are spongy structures and they are non-muscular. They are non-muscular. They are made up of bronchial tree and connective tissue. Okay. Now, since we are starting with the lungs, when we look at the lungs, the first thing that we notice is covering of the lungs. Okay, covering of the lungs. The covering of the lungs is called pleura. Okay, so lungs are covered by two membranes. So there are two pleural membranes. Yes, two pleural membranes. जैसे जब भी दो मेम्ब्रेन्स होता है तो ऑब्वियसली एक होगा इनर और एक होगा आउटर. कैन यू टेल मी व्हाट इज द नेम ऑफ द इनर मेम्ब्रेन? व्हाट डज इनर मीन? नो, बोमेंस कैप्सूल में भी इनर था. वेरी गुड देवांगी. इनर इज विसरा. So there is inner visceral layer or inner visceral pleura and outer parietal pleura. Now tell me kids, दोनों में से कौन सा will be attached to the lungs? Which one out of these will be attached to the lungs? Inner visceral और outer parietal? लॉजिकल है ना बच्चे, अगर ये लंग है और लंग में दो मेम्ब्रेन्स है प्लूरा, करेक्ट? सो एक इसके ऊपर चिपका होगा और एक इस पे चिपका नहीं होगा और दोनों के बीच में गैप है. सो द इनर विसरल लेयर is in contact, it is in contact with the lung tissue, and the outer parietal pleura is in contact with the thoracic cavity, that is with the bones. Yeah, with the thoracic cavity. Now inner visceral and outer parietal pleura is uh, not fused. Okay, there is a gap between them. Okay, the space between two pleural membranes, the space between two pleural membranes is called the pleural cavity. It's called the pleural cavity. Yes, Kushi, correct. It's called pleural cavity, also known as pleural space. Yes, it is filled with a fluid. So it is filled with a pleural fluid. So at any given point in time, the pleural fluid has about 150 ml. There is 150 ml of pleural fluid. What's the function between fluid between two layers? It reduces friction between the two layers. It reduces friction between the two layers. Okay, right. Now you have to understand that the entire uh, lung is derived from endoderm. Alveoli is derived from endoderm, so they are endodermal in origin, but the pleura is mesodermal in origin. So the lung alveoli are endodermal in origin, whereas the pleura is mesodermal in origin. All right. Now there is a disease called pleurisy. Okay. There is a disease called pleurisy. Now basically in pleurisy there is more amount of pleural fluid around the lungs. Yes, there is a big amount of, yes. So in pleurisy, due to inflammation of the pleura, the pleural fluid in the pleural cavity increases. The pleural fluid increases. And kids, when the pleural fluid increases, what happens? The the person will feel difficulty in breathing because lung ke aspas there is heaviness around the lungs. There is more fluid around the lungs. Okay, pleurisy is sometimes also called pleuritis. ठीक है, right? Please finish this up. We have yet to finish about lungs. We just finished the membrane, just the general introduction. हमने lungs are a pair of respiratory organs present in the thoracic cavity on either sides of the on either sides of the heart. The thoracic cavity is an airtight cavity, and thus the lungs are protected by sternum anteriorly, vertebral column posteriorly. Um, then ribs laterally. Yes. Then diaphragm inferiorly. Then structure wise, it's a conical organ with the base of the lung on the diaphragm, apex is towards the neck. It basically contains bronchial tree and connective tissue. It is a spongy structure which is non-muscular. To study the um, it is surrounded by inner visceral layer and outer parietal layer, and the space between them is called pleural cavity. Yes, which has this for the produces friction between the two layers. All right. Okay, moving on. Now when I look at the lungs, this is how the right lung would look like. The left lung actually has a space, so there is a notch like this. The left lung is not completed on the A side, and this is how it is present, the left lung. And whatever space you see in between, that's called the mediastinum, and this is where the heart is going to be present. So heart is present somewhat like this. Yes. So there are two lungs in human beings. This is going to be the right lung. Yes, and this is going to be the left lung. Right lung and left lung. Okay. Now just below the lung there is diaphragm. So diaphragm pushes it, and on the left side diaphragm is a little lower like this. Right? Also diaphragm के नीचे होता है liver. So जो लेफ्ट लंग होता है वो हल्का सा राइट लंग से बड़ा होता है. So important left lung, and we are talking about human lungs. It varies, the uh, parts and the dimensions will vary from lungs to lungs. So adult lungs, yes. So left lung is longer than right lung. Left lung is longer than the right lung in humans. But if I look at the thickness, I can say because of the heart being present, left lung is narrower than the right lung. That means the right lung is slightly broader. Now the dimensions of the lung, actually we don't we don't teach you here, but primarily if you see, it ranges anywhere between 24 to 27 centimeters in length, because during breathing our length of the lungs keep on changing. Okay, so it can go from 24 to maximum breathing may it can be 27 as well. Okay, now when I look at the right lung, the right lung is actually bigger and broader, so it's actually divided into three areas like this, one and two. So there are two fissures here, and here there is one fissure here. So the right lung has three lobes. The three lobes are superior lobe, middle lobe, and inferior lobe. Superior lobe, middle lobe, and inferior lobe. The left lung has only two lobes, superior lobe and inferior lobe. अगर दो ही है तो एक superior और एक inferior होता है, right? Okay, just 1 second. डायग्राम में थोड़ा सा गड़बड़ है इधर. Okay, I made a mistake here. Just so this is one, and this is the other, and this one is the other one. Okay, so this one is called the horizontal fissure. So horizontal fissure बोलते हैं उसको. It's like a deep cut in the lung. And this part is called the oblique fissure. Horizontal fissure and oblique fissure. Can you tell me left lung में क्या होगा? Left lung में क्या होगा? सिर्फ और सिर्फ कौन सा फिशर होगा? Oblique fissure. Oblique fissure. So this is superior lobe, this is middle lobe, this is inferior lobe. This is a big superior lobe and a small inferior lobe. So all in all, there are five lobes in the lungs. So understand this. The trachea will divide into two primary bronchi. You know why? One goes to the right lung and one goes to the left lung. So two primary bronchi. The primary bronchi will divide into branches. ये करवाया था मैंने last class, but the two primary bronchi will divide into branches based on the lobes. So the right lung has three lobes. So there will be three secondary bronchi. And this will be how many? Two secondary bronchi. ठीक है? So this is about the lungs. So The right and the left lung, pleura, the three lobes, fissures. The right lung is broader and shorter than the left lung. Left lung is narrower due to the presence of cardiac notch, but it is longer. Now, within the lobes, there are lobules. Okay, but the further the lobe is divided into parts. So the superior lobe has four lobules, the inferior lobe has four lobules, and the middle lobe has two lobules. Here, the superior lobe has four lobules, the inferior lobe also has four lobules. Okay? So, how many primary bronchi were there? Primary bronchi, two, because one in the right lung, one in the left lung. How many secondary bronchi? Total five. Correct? क्योंकि ये थ्री लोब्स में डिवाइड होगा, राइट प्राइमरी ब्रोंकस और टू में लेफ्ट प्राइमरी ब्रोंकस. अभी जो थ्री है वो किस में डिवाइड होंगे? जो पहला वाला है वो फोर में. सो टर्शियरी ब्रोंकाई, one in each lobule. So this is going to be 4 plus 4 plus 2. That's 10, and this is going to be 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4. So 8. So total 18. 10 plus 8. ठीक है? All right. It's done. So we'll move on. There is a concept of intrapleural pressure. इंट्रा का मतलब होता है विद इन, प्लूरा का मतलब होता है प्लूरा. द प्रेशर विद इन द प्लूरा इज कॉल्ड इंट्रा प्लूरल प्रेशर. इंट्रा प्लूरल प्रेशर इज -7 मिलीमीटर्स ऑफ मर्क्यूरी, मतलब बाहर से वो 7 मिलीमीटर्स ऑफ मर्क्यूरी कम होता है. एंड दैट इज वाई आर लंग्स आर ऑलवेज इन अ कॉन्ट्रैक्टेड स्टेट. कॉन्ट्रैक्टेड स्टेट मतलब क्योंकि बाहर से प्रेशर, सॉरी, दे आर ऑलवेज इन एन एक्सपैंडेड स्टेट बिकॉज बाहर से लंग के बाहर प्रेशर कम होता है, राइट, एज कंपेयर टू द एटमॉस्फेरिक प्रेशर. देन it can be increased to a maximum of -4 millimeters of mercury. So that is intrapleural pressure. More about pressure and um, the diseases we will study in the next class. Right now, just introducing the right and the left lobes. Okay. Now, just certain terms which are included or with respiratory system. So the first term which is included is called upper respiratory tract. Upper respiratory tract. So, upper respiratory tract कहाँ से शुरू होता है? External nostrils, मतलब nasal parts, internal nostrils, ठीक है? Pharynx and larynx is called upper respiratory tract. अपर रेस्पिरेटरी ट्रैक्ट इसको बोलते हैं. सेकेंड पार्ट इज कॉल्ड लोअर रेस्पिरेटरी ट्रैक्ट. लोअर रेस्पिरेटरी ट्रैक्ट Lower respiratory tract is from trachea downwards, matlab trachea, bronchi, lungs, alveoli, correct? Can you tell me coronavirus, which is there right now, is it causing URTI, upper respiratory tract infection, or LRTI, lower respiratory tract infection? URTI or LRTI, what does it cause? So coronavirus is dangerous because it is causing LRTI. Okay. Common cold causes URTI. Coronavirus primarily causes LRTI, respiratory tract infection. Yeah. So lower respiratory tract and upper respiratory tract. Yes. Then we have another word which is called the bronchial tree. So bronchial tree is from the trachea to the various bronchi, primary, secondary, tertiary, okay, to terminal bronchiole. The terminal bronchiole has a diameter less than 0.5 millimeters. Diameter less than 0.5 millimeters. ब्रोंकियल ट्री के बाद नेक्स्ट आता है रेस्पिरेटरी ट्री. सो ब्रोंकियल ट्री के बाद आता है रेस्पिरेटरी ट्री. इसमें होता है रेस्पिरेटरी. ये सब लास्ट क्लास हमने एक फ्लो चार्ट बनाया था, उस फ्लो चार्ट का पार्ट है. रेस्पिरेटरी ब्रोंक्यूल्स, they will branch to form alveolar duct. Yes, alveolar duct will have many bags called alveolar sacs, and हर एक बैग में बहुत छोटे छोटे alveoli होते हैं, तो इसको बोलते हैं alveoli. Respiratory tree is also known as the respiratory part. Yeah, please complete this. Once you're done, just write done so that we can move forward. Last 10 seconds. Okay. All right. So then, how is the entire respiration occurring? We did that last time again in the form of a flow chart. We did just writing the steps because we are going to describe all these steps in the next part of the chapter. So mechanism of respiration, what does it involve? The first step that it involves is breathing or air within the lungs. Breathing, also called pulmonary ventilation. Breathing or pulmonary ventilation, that is exchange of gases between air and lungs. That's the first step. After the exchange of gases between air and lungs occur, it will go to blood. Yeah, so breathing is between air and lungs. So then it has to go to blood. Then next we are going to have diffusion of gases. And diffusion of gases is between what? Lungs and blood. Yes. मतलब alveoli of the lungs and capillaries. Yes. इसको हमने external respiration भी बोला था. Next step is called transport of gases. Transport of gases. Yes. By blood. So how blood transports air and carbon dioxide, that's transport of gases. Then there is one more called diffusion of gases, but this diffusion of gases is between blood. This diffusion of gases is between blood and tissues. This diffusion of gases is between blood and tissues. So that is why this is called external respiration and this is called internal respiration. And the last step is utilization of oxygen and generation of carbon dioxide. This happens at mitochondria within the cells. So this is called cellular respiration. So we are going to study the first 4 steps in this chapter because the name of the chapter is breathing and exchange of gases, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4 is what we are going to do. This will be studied in a separate chapter called cellular respiration or respiration within the cells. Okay. Now we won't be able to complete breathing, but certain concepts regarding breathing I just want to introduce. Okay. So first is the concept of breathing, what we are doing. It is nothing but exchange of gases between air and the lungs और उसका कुछ mechanism होता है, right? अब वो mechanism जानने से पहले let's study some important aspects. The first thing which is required and first concept that we need to know is diaphragm. So what all do we know about diaphragm? Diaphragm is a muscular partition between thorax and abdomen. Muscular partition between thorax and abdomen. Muscular partition between thorax and abdomen. Yeah, diaphragm is found in all mammals. It's also found in crocodiles. Yeah. So diaphragm I can say is a mammalian property. Some mammalian property found in mammals. Right? Now diaphragm, that dome shaped structure. So it's dome shaped at rest. It is dome shaped at rest. Hmm? Next, diaphragm has radial muscles. Radial muscles matlab beginning from the center and going towards the periphery. There are radial muscles in the diaphragm. And finally, these radial muscles are skeletal muscles which are involuntary. ये important है. Skeletal muscles which are involuntary matlab they are made up of skeletal muscles only but they are not under our control. So diaphragm has skeletal muscles which are involuntary. Okay, so this is these are the two positions of the diaphragm. Okay, position number one, position number two. In which one do you think the muscles of the diaphragm have contracted? In one or in two? Where do you think that the muscles of diaphragm have contracted? In one or two? Aditya, we don't hold our breath with the help of diaphragm. Right now, first answer this question. Okay. So, some people are still confused. Many of you all got it correct. Uh, what is the smallest possible distance between 2 points? मैथ में पढ़ते थे लोअर क्लासेस में. Smallest possible distance between two lines. Very good, Khushi. Shreya. Smallest possible, yeah, smallest possible distance would be a segment or I can say a line, right? So अगर point A और point B है, right? और इनके बीच में एक धागा डाला मैंने, उनके बीच का डिस्टेंस है 10 सेंटीमीटर, और एक धागा ऐसा फिट हो रहा है और सेम पॉइंट्स के बीच में दूसरा धागा ऐसे फिट हो रहा है. तो इसका मतलब ये 10 सेंटीमीटर है और ये 10 सेंटीमीटर से ज़्यादा है, इसीलिए ऐसा हो गया, राइट? सो व्हेन अ मसल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स द लेंथ ऑफ द मसल डिक्रीजेस. सो ये इंपॉर्टेंट है. दिस इज अ कॉन्ट्रैक्टेड डायफ्राम. So a contracted diaphragm, matlab when the muscles of the diaphragm have contracted, they actually become flat. And this is a relaxed diaphragm. When the muscles of the diaphragm relax, when the muscles of the diaphragm relax, it is called, it will be dome shaped. Okay. Then our next discussion, which is important as far as breathing is concerned, are the ribs. So what do we know about ribs? Okay, what are ribs? Ribs are also called costa. Okay, ribs also called costa. So what do we have? They are 12 pairs of flat bones. What do these ribs do? These 12 pairs of flat bones, they connect sternum, they connect sternum to vertebral column. Vertebral column, sternum to vertebral column. Okay. Now how they connected to the sternum? When I look at the sternum, it actually looks like a necktie. Sternum actually looks like a necktie like this. So it's one bone, but it actually looks like a necktie having these pointed projections like this. So ये एक ही बोन है, बट यहाँ पे है ना, ये जो हॉरिजॉन्टल लाइन बना रहा है वहाँ पे एंगल होता है ऐसा. एंगल मतलब थोड़ा सा प्रोजेक्शन होता है. So this is how the sternum is. और sternum में पे ribs attached होते हैं like this. Okay, but the ribs are attached to the sternum with the help of a cartilage which is hyaline cartilage. कराया था मैंने आपको. This hyaline cartilage is called costal cartilage. So ये first pair of rib है उसका costal cartilage, ये second pair of rib है उसका costal cartilage, third pair of rib का costal cartilage, fourth pair of rib का costal cartilage, fifth pair of rib का costal cartilage, sixth और फिर seventh के लिए जगह ही नहीं बचता है. मतलब 7 तक होता है, फिर 8 9 10 के लिए मतलब बाकी के लिए जगह ही नहीं बचता है. Did you understand this? So this is the first pair of ribs, second pair of ribs, third pair, fourth pair, fifth pair, sixth pair and seventh pair. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth and seventh. And these cartilages which help the ribs to get connected to the sternum, they are called costal cartilages, cartilage of the ribs. Costal cartilage. Can you tell me what type of cartilage is costal cartilage? Is it a hyaline cartilage, elastic cartilage? What is it? Or white fibrocartilage? What is it? Shreya Devangi, correct? It's a type of hyaline cartilage. Now हमने अभी तक सिर्फ 7 pairs, अभी पैर मतलब दूसरे साइड पे भी ऐसे ही रहेगा, वो मैंने बनाया नहीं है. ओके, आई हैव ड्रॉन ओनली ऑन वन साइड, बट अब जगह खाली नहीं है, बट देर आर मोर रिब्स अटैच, राइट? तो पता है क्या होता है? द 8th पेयर ऑफ रिब, द 9th पेयर ऑफ रिब, the 8th pair of rib, the 9th pair of rib and the 10th pair of rib kids are attached to 8th, 9th and 10th, they are attached to the costal cartilage of the 7th rib only. So the costal cartilage of 7th rib is also attached to the 8th pair of rib, 9th pair of rib and 10th pair of ribs. अच्छा, ये तो स्टर्नम में अटैच है. दूसरा साइड कहाँ पे अटैच्ड है? टू द थोरैसिक वर्टिब्रा. सो 12 रिब्स, 12 पेयर ऑफ रिब्स और 12 thoracic vertebra. ओके, सो दैट इज व्हाई अब इधर भी 10 का हिसाब हुआ है, 11 12 तो है ही नहीं. सो लेट्स डिस्कस द टाइप्स ऑफ रिब्स. ओके, द फर्स्ट टाइप ऑफ रिब्स आर कॉल्ड ट्रू रिब्स. They are called true ribs. Why are they called true ribs? Because they are attached to the sternum. They are attached to the sternum by their respective costal cartilage. याद रखना, कोस्टल नहीं है. कोस्टल का मतलब होता है अलोंग द सी, ये वर्ड नहीं है. कॉस्टल है, कॉस्टा का मतलब होता है रिब्स. सो विच आर अटैच्ड टू द स्टर्नम बाय द रिस्पेक्टिव कॉस्टल कार्टिलेजेस. का मतलब क्या होगा? खुद का कार्टिलेज. सो फर्स्ट टू द 7th पेयर ऑफ रिब्स. The next one are called false ribs. False ribs. False ribs are also attached, but they are not directly attached to the sternum. They are attached to the costal cartilage. They are not attached to the sternum, right? They are attached to the costal cartilage of 7th rib. Yes. So they are what? 8th, 9th and 10th pair of ribs. 8th, 9th and 10th pairs. So I can say ट्रू रिब्स एक साइड पे वर्टिब्रे पे अटैच्ड है, थोरैसिक वर्टिब्रा पे, और दूसरे साइड पे स्टर्नम पे अटैच्ड है, बराबर. सो दैट इज व्हाई दे आर कॉल्ड वर्टिब्रोस्टर्नल रिब्स. वर्टिब्रोस्टर्नल रिब्स. फॉल्स रिब्स एक साइड पे वर्टिब्रल कॉलम पे अटैच्ड है, पर दूसरे साइड स्टर्नम पे नहीं अटैच्ड है. वो किस पे अटैच्ड है? कॉस्टल कार्टिलेज पे अटैच्ड है. यस. तो दे आर कॉल्ड वर्टिब्रोकॉन्ड्रल रिब्स. कॉन्ड्रा का मतलब होता है कार्टिलेज. स्टडी ऑफ कार्टिलेज इज कॉल्ड chondrology. Then the last type of ribs are called floating ribs. They are called floating ribs because they are not attached to sternum at all. They are only attached to vertebral column. They are only attached to vertebral column. They are not attached to sternum. They are only attached to vertebral column. They are not attached to sternum. That is why floating ribs are also just called vertebral ribs, because they are not attached to anything in sternum. And what are the pairs? 11th and 12th. 11th and 12th pair of ribs are floating ribs. So together they will form the thoracic cage. Thoracic cage is formed by ribs, thoracic vertebrae पीछे और sternum आगे. All right. Three types of ribs or categories of ribs: true ribs, false ribs, and floating ribs. True ribs attached to the sternum, false ribs attached to the cartilage. All right. We will stop here. In case if you have any queries, please let me know. Uh, by tomorrow afternoon, I'm going to put a list of people whose Aqua World project I have already received. I'm going to put that on the group, on the biology group, and um, and then I'm going to send it to my judges to see who has done well. Yeah. In fact, I don't want to. That's why I've given you that email ID, because my assistant teachers are going to go through it. I don't want to see and get biased, right? So by tomorrow afternoon, I will send you the list कि किसका किसका projects मुझे मिला है. Okay? How is oxygen selectively taken? How does the exchange occur? What are the parameters? Why oxygen is taken in? Why carbon dioxide is not taken in? इन सब सवालों का जवाब जानेंगे हम लोग अगले लेक्चर में. ठीक है श्रेया? उसके लिए कुछ कॉन्सेप्ट्स पहले अभी तक ब्रीदिंग नहीं किया. व्हाट क्वेश्चन यू आर आस्किंग इज बेसिकली एक्सचेंज ऑफ गैसेस. सो पहले ब्रीदिंग करते हैं. लेट्स गो इन दैट फ्लो. ओके. और कुछ? Anyone, any other queries? How floating ribs are? Floating ribs आपको anteriorly नहीं दिखेगा. Floating ribs सिर्फ आपको पीछे से दिखेगा. तो सपोज ये 11th thoracic vertebra और ये 12th thoracic vertebra है, तो यहाँ से एक पेयर ऑफ रिब्स ऐसा नीचे की तरफ आएगा और यहाँ से एक पेयर ऑफ रिब्स ऐसे नीचे की तरफ आएगा. ओके. ये आगे की तरफ टर्न नहीं होगा, ये यहीं पे, मतलब इट वोंट गो इन फ्रंट एंड जॉइन द स्टर्नम. नो. तो ऐसे दिखते फ्लोटिंग रिब्स. दिस इज द पोस्टीरियर व्यू, दिस इज द वर्टिब्रे. एंटीरियर व्यू में वो रिब्स नहीं दिखेंगे. All right then, kids. Bye bye. Please start solving your booklet and even your NCRT at your fingertips. We have completed with the structure of the respiratory system. Okay. So start solving questions on that. General introduction and structure. Right? Then suddenly don't tell कि sir मेरे को ये नहीं किया वो नहीं आ रहा है. I will not give you time. Right? चलो. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone. Bye bye.